Welcome to the History Vault. Some doors were never meant to be opened. Some people do not just die, they vanish, whole nations gone, and history never got to say goodbye. Empires usually fall in the open. Rome burned while the world watched. Carthage was crushed, and its fields sown with ruin. We have the dates and the names. But a handful of civilizations did something far stranger than losing a war. They simply stopped. No surrender, no final chapter, no witnesses left to record the end. One year there are cities full of noise, with harvests coming in and children being born in the streets. The pottery is still on the wheel and the granaries are full. A generation later, the same streets stand empty. The hearths are cold, the doors hang open, and the fields have gone back to weeds. Nothing explains why. There is no battlefield to point to. No last king whose death we can mourn. No refugees who lived long enough to tell anyone what they had seen. Archaeologists can measure the walls and date the ash. They can weigh the bones and read the grain. But the people themselves have walked out of the story. These are 5 peoples who vanished from history and left the ending completely blank. Colonists and armies, city builders and cliff dwellers, all gone. Some were swallowed by drought. Some may have been quietly absorbed by their neighbors. Some marched off and were simply never heard from again. We still cannot say for certain what became of any of them. These are the disappearances that history has never managed to close. 1. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In July of 1587, 115 English colonists came ashore on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They meant to build England's first permanent town in the New World. Their leader was an artist and governor named John White. When supplies ran short that autumn, he sailed back to England, expecting to return within a few months. Instead, war with Spain and the threat of the Armada trapped him there. 3 long years passed before he could cross the Atlantic again. When White finally landed in August of 1590, the settlement was still standing. The houses were there. The wooden wall was there. But every single person was gone. There were no bodies, no graves, and no sign of a battle. His own granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, had vanished with the rest. The only message was a single word carved into a wooden post at the gate. Croatoan. On a nearby tree, just 3 letters. C-R-O. Croatoan was the name of an island to the south and of the friendly people who lived there. It may have been a destination, or a plea, or a warning. A storm drove White's ships back out to sea before he could reach the island. He never saw the colonists again, and no one has proven their fate since. 2. The Sea Peoples. Around the year 1200 BC, the entire eastern Mediterranean was on fire. In the space of a few decades, the great powers of the Bronze Age fell one after another. The mighty Hittite Empire collapsed. The wealthy trading city of Ugarit was burned to the ground and never rebuilt. Its final letters beg for help that never came. Egyptian temple carvings blame a mysterious coalition of raiders. They called the Sea Peoples. They came out of the water and across the land, wave after wave. This was not just an army. The reliefs show them moving with families, with women and children riding in heavy ox carts. They were a whole people on the move, looking for somewhere to land. Pharaoh Ramses III claimed to have crushed them in a massive battle in the Nile Delta around 1177 BC. Even in victory, Egypt was never quite the same. And yet we still do not know where the Sea Peoples came from. We do not know their language, their homeland, or even how many different groups they truly were. After the burning stopped, they vanished from the record almost overnight. Some may have settled the coast and become other peoples we now know by different names. An entire tide of humanity rose up, helped bring down the Bronze Age world, and then dissolved back into the sea it came from. 3. The Ancestral Puebloans. In the high deserts of the American Southwest, the Ancestral Puebloans built entire cities directly into the walls of the cliffs. From a distance the canyons look empty. Then you see the windows. At Mesa Verde in Colorado, they raised stone villages hundreds of rooms deep beneath overhanging rock. At Chaco Canyon, they built great houses larger than anything else in North America for centuries. They aligned buildings to the sun and the moon. They cut wide, straight roads across the open desert and traded for macaws and copper from far to the south. For roughly 700 years, the culture flourished across what is now the Four Corners region. Then, in the final decades of the 100s, they walked away from all of it. A brutal drought gripped the southwest for more than 20 years, from 1276 onward. The rains failed, the crops failed, and the reservoirs turned to dust. There are also signs of something darker in the last years. Burned villages, defensive positions high in the cliffs, and skeletons that show violence between neighbors. Strangely, they left pottery, tools, and even stored food behind, as if they expected to come back. They never did. Their descendants did not die out. They live today in the Hopi, Zuni, and Rio Grande Pueblo nations. But why the Great Cliff cities were abandoned so completely is still debated. 4. The Harappans of the Indus Valley. 4,500 years ago, the Indus Valley was home to the largest civilization on the planet. It stretched across what is now Pakistan and northwest India, far bigger than Egypt or Sumer. Its greatest cities, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, held tens of thousands of people in tidy grids of fired brick. The streets ran at right angles, laid out with real planning. They had covered sewers and drains running beneath the roads. They had public baths, huge granaries, and a system of stone weight so precise it was standardized across hundreds of miles. They also wrote. Thousands of small carved seals survive, covered in a script no one on Earth has ever managed to read. Their voice is right in front of us, and completely silent. Then, starting around 1900 BC, the great cities began to empty. The careful grids fell apart. People drifted away, and the urban world quietly came undone. For a long time, invasion was blamed. Today most scholars point to climate. The monsoon range weakened, and a major river system that fed the cities appears to have dried up and shifted away. With a script we cannot read, the Harappans left no story of their own ending. No king, no war, no explanation. Only the deep silence of abandoned brick. One of humanity's very first great civilizations, home to perhaps 5 million people, faded out over a few generations and was forgotten until the 1920s. 5. The Roman Ninth Legion. The Ninth Legion, Legio IX Hispana, was one of the oldest and most storied units in the entire Roman army. At full strength it numbered around 5,000 fighting men. They had marched with Julius Caesar. They had fought across Spain, Germany, and finally into Britain, where they helped hold the wild northern frontier of the empire. For years the Ninth was garrisoned at York, then called Eboracum. Their last solid trace is a stone inscription there, marking building work around the year 1008 AD. And then, sometime after that, the Ninth Legion simply drops off the map. It stops appearing in the army lists, with no record of a battle, a disbanding, or a defeat. The most famous theory is dramatic. That the Legion marched north into the highlands of Caledonia, into what is now Scotland, and was annihilated by the Picts, eagle standard and all. More cautious historians disagree. They point to hints that the Ninth was transferred east, perhaps to the Rhine or Judea, and may have been destroyed in a later war far from Britain. The truth is that no one has ever found where the Legion ended. No mass grave, no last stand, no captured standard has ever been confirmed. One of Rome's great legions, thousands of trained soldiers, marched off the edge of recorded history, and never marched back into it. Cities can be rebuilt and kings can be replaced, but when an entire people slips quietly out of history, the silence they leave behind is one we have never learned to fill. Some mysteries we may never solve. Subscribe to the History Vault, and we will open the next door together.